All right, welcome back to another episode of the Beat the Bookie podcast, episode 11. I am joined here by our coaches at Beat the Bookie, Coach Anthony. What's up, my friend?
How you doing, buddy? How's everybody doing?
Good. Everyone, I'm sure, is doing good. We're broadcasting this live. I know much to your chagrin, but I am your host at Alan Seslowski, and shortly we'll be joined by my longtime broadcasting partner, John Alesia. He'll be here in progress. But what we wanted to do for the audience today is introduce them to the coaches because we are at Beat the Bookie are growing by leaps and bounds, and now we are announcing the special launch of our brand new website, which is going to be getting better by the day. sportsbetarmy.com. So if you're a member of DFS Army, you know we've been talking about this for maybe a year or so, but now we have finally launched Sportsbet Army. And what better way to start the launch than to meet our coaches? Coach Anthony, let's just jump right into it, man. How long have you been with Sportsbet Army? Talk about your history with the company and what exactly you do for the company.
Yeah. It's been a great ride. You know, I've been with the Army approximately about maybe 3, almost going into 4 years, and I was never really into DFS as much as the market was growing, but I had this appetite of learning, and this is a great group to join, right? When we talk about coaching, when we're talking about teaching, when we're talking about some of the best tools in the industry, it was very easy for me to just ramp up to all the coaching and information that was given to us, and let's just say I found myself a second home in DFS, and we saw an opportunity to grow the business into sports betting, and we just jumped into a couple of channels and we started talking about sports, and that's my niche. That's where I've developed, let's say, the expertise. DFS was just maybe a second pastime, but more of a serious bettor. And we saw this great opportunity, and we just started from absolutely nothing. We just started posting plays, and talking about strategy and models, and look at us now. About 18 months later, we're getting ready to launch our new website.
Yeah, so for those of you who are tuned into this podcast, obviously you love sports wagering as much as we do, and you're turned on by it. So one of the most common questions that I get from other members, and I'm going to ask it to you, Anthony, is what turns you on about sports wagering versus talk about that time that you were just a fan and then you're, wait a second, I had an edge here, and then you turned it into sports wagering. What is it about the whole industry that turns you on?
Used to be a thrill, right, of chasing that bet, and then it just turned into a business for me. That's exactly what it turned into, and growing up with much older cousins, I was exposed, let's say, to things that I maybe shouldn't have seen, at that age. And I'm talking mostly, back in the early '90s, it's a lot of betting, and stuff like that, and I was just following, right, and probably my first bet was during Super Bowl. It was the Bills against the Cowboys, and everyone was going for the Bills, and I just came in with that contrarian pick, and I walked in with a bet for the Cowboys, and that kind of hit it off at a really soft launch for me, getting into that, and then it was all about falling in love with the numbers, right? And falling in love with finding that edge. And as I grew up and as I got smarter and as I've finished, I've got a background in finance. I just started building models, right? We started building models, and people always refer to value, right? Oh, there's value on this game and there's value on that game. And I don't know if I could swear on the podcast, but I'm like, what the fuck do you mean about value? Right?
Yeah.
What do you mean about, what do you mean?
Because we hear that
value?
all the time. We hear it all the time.
All the time.
And that's a great topic. We could do a whole podcast on value, but explain it in layman's terms for someone maybe tuning in that hears it all the time. What is value in sports wagering, and how did you start identifying it and grab an edge?
Yeah.
With it?
So, I used to get a phone call by a buddy and say, hey, I think there's value on the Bills over the weekend, right? Or there's value on the Montreal Canadiens over the weekend. And my question was, based on what? Is it your gut? Is it because you're looking at the line and you're getting 6 points and you feel that you should be getting 10, what are you basing yourself from? So that's where the models become really important. A model is not specifically going to tell you need to bet that number. The model is going to point you into a direction where you could, take the human element of handicapping a game and not wasting your time on handicapping 12 games, right? Because a model is not going to be able to quantify back-to-backs or that the players went out the night before, right? Or
Right.
something like that, right? So based on the sport, when we're looking at spreads, right? Basketball, football, our the value behind our models are really that we're going to show you where a line is not properly priced, right? So it doesn't mean that it's an indicator to bet on it, but we're going to teach people and say, this makes no sense based on our model, right? And let's get into it and let's talk about it. And you got to see the conversations that go on in my channel sometimes, and they're fantastic. And when you're looking at baseball and when you're looking at hockey, we're talking about expected value. So again, people are talking about there's value on this game, and I love the Habs tonight, but there's absolutely no value on them. So
right, that's
why
the
even
difference.
take a look at it?
I think that's the difference between making a bet with your heart and a bet with your brain. And what Anthony's referring to is over at Sportsbet Army, we have these Slack channels. And the Slack channels, if you come over there and check us out, get a sample of Sportsbet Army, are conversations between the all the different members and the professional coaches like Anthony, where you could discuss your wagers, talk through it. I mean, how many times have you listening to this podcast have had a thought about anything at work, anything with your family, and then you talk through it with a bunch of people that are invested in it emotionally, and then you come out with different ideas and things that you didn't think of, and then you take away different things. And that's what's so special about Sportsbet Army, is you have that community of sports bettors that Anthony's talking about. All right, Anthony. So for someone listening to this right now that is new to sports betting, we'll start with that, because we know that at Sportsbet Army, it's not just new bettors, it's very experienced bettors too that find value in the service. So for new sports bettors, what advice would you give them that are some common mistakes that maybe you made in the beginning?
Boy,
just some basic 101 stuff. What's some basic things that that the new wagers make?
There's
just one or
discipline, right? And I think John really hit it off pretty well, right? We treat this as a business, right? And some people are going to come into sports wagering and say, I've got $5,000 to lose, right? And that's going to be my bankroll, right? But we just see it differently. I've got 5,000 to invest, right? And how are we going to invest? And I think the common issue with people is, the bankroll management is a big issue. So, we really focus a lot on that. So I think the two biggest things is find a budget that you want to invest, not to lose, right? And just be extremely disciplined, find, and it doesn't just have to be us, right? Just go out and educate yourself, because you're going to be exposed to all kinds of shit out there. And then when you actually come and join us, you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference between let's just say other places, right, where we're going to take the time to teach discipline. And if you place a stupid bet, I'll be the first one to tell you in your face, why the hell did you bet 3 units on this game, right? That's like first of all, three units shouldn't even be part of this conversation, right? 3 units shouldn't be even part of this conversation. So yeah, just find the right amount that is for you to invest, and be disciplined.
So for someone, what is a reasonable bankroll for someone, let's say that's working just an everyday job, that's interested in sports wagering? Obviously, they have a family, so they don't want to just pour money into something that they're not good at yet, but they want to have some fun. Can someone get by with a $100 bankroll for an NFL season, $500? What is reasonable to come in with? And again, I know it's different person to person situation. You can bet $1 and have a good time betting football, but if you want to come in and attack, let's say, the NCAA season, the second half of the hockey season, which you're an expert on, what would you say is a good number to come in and deposit? Because I get that question a lot. How much should I deposit? I don't know. Should I deposit this or that? So talk through the different ways you could do it.
Yeah. I would say about $10, $1,000, is a good place to start for the casual individual that's betting, that wants to learn, right? I think that's a sweet amount for just to say that the new market coming up, with sportsbook being legal now in the United States. I'm in Montreal. This doesn't exist here yet, but we're really seeing a growth, on the middle class, and even on the lower class, people that are getting into this more and more and more. So I think 1,000 is really a fair amount. But we've got people joining us that deposited $50 and now have bankrolls of 22, 2,300, right?
Yeah.
So this is not a marketing stunt that I'm saying here, because that is maybe a 1 to 3% that come in with a really small bankroll and come in really at the right time where we're burning hot, right? NHL, I'm at 58%, 22 units. NBA, I'm at 62%, 13.5 units. And we've got cold streaks and we have hot streaks. Somebody that comes in on a hot streak, that's betting 1, 2, 3 units. Yeah, good for him, right? Somebody coming in from a cold streak, somebody that's coming in and we're going through a cold streak. I mean, that unit size becomes, or that percentage size becomes really important to follow, so that you could ride the peaks and valleys, right? But I think 1,000 is really a good amount.
Yeah, and what I urge people to do is don't think of it as I'm putting $1,000 and I'm gambling. It's really an investment. Think about it like almost like stock trading. Is that fair? Like I'm going to invest $1,000 in this stock. I hire Sports Bet Army, Anthony and John and Ryan as the coaches, and they're my financial advisors. Is that a fair way to think about it, or is that too simplistic? And be brutally honest.
No, very. And we this is a community. We start talking about our kids, we start sharing stupid pictures, we start talking about sports, we start talking about anything. And yes, that absolutely, we don't treat this just as a business. We actually really treat this as getting to know our customers, getting to know these individuals that become our friends. And we'll call you up if you do something stupid. But if you do follow our lead and you're disciplined, our results are there. They're tracked on a daily basis, right? There's full transparency here. And when I do a stupid bet, I'll be the first one to say it. And when I feel I'm going to be getting cold, I start saying it to the guys and say, hey, pivot to another coach if you guys have to at this point, because I feel this,
It's like
coming.
the basketball game, right? Sometimes
100%.
the fourth guy on the team is the one that just can't miss, and sometimes it's your star player that just can't miss.
Yeah.
You got to get the ball in the like NBA Jam. He's on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm just glad to be here, because I know there's a lot of people that are gonna say, finally we put a face to Anthony. I'm really not. I'm really not the type. I'm very conservative. I'm private. Got a family, own a business, so you're not going to see me on Twitter going crazy, like some other guys that I highly respect in the industry. That's just not me.
Well,
this is our home.
I know that's who you are. You're a behind the scenes guy, but just from the handful of times we've talked offline, I have insisted that you come on the air because I think I know the people are going to love you. I enjoy talking to you, and you're easy to talk with. You're so smart about the gambling industry, and the thing is that you don't hold judgments either. What you do, so that's why I insist on having you. We're about to be joined here by our friend John Alesia. Look who walked in the door. Hey, John, how you doing?
What's going on? How you going, boys? How's it going, Anthony?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you, John.
Look who I dug up to join us on the podcast, John. Coach Anthony. And what we were just talking about was we were just going over Anthony's philosophies, his history, and his reason for getting into the business. And I'm just going to go a couple more questions with Anthony, and then you and I will take over and go into a few more topics. But Anthony, now that we covered all that, and again, we're going to have you back to do a deep dive
anytime.
Interview with you, but I got a couple we talked about betting, but now I got a couple personality questions for you that I hope that you can answer. So
sure.
These are rapid fire. If you want to pass. If you want to answer. Okay.
Sure.
Here we go. Tell me about a philosophy. It could be a sports wagering philosophy or a life philosophy that you use for your life and have changed in the last 5 years. Is there any sort of mantra or philosophy that literally in the last few years you've totally abandoned and changed?
Structure, standards.
Meaning what?
That whatever you do needs to have a structure behind it, but most important, you need to set those set of standards, right? and then it goes from business and it goes to the second side, to the business of sports betting army. You just got to keep yourself, accountable, and you got to keep yourself really high to the standards that you set yourself up to make sure that you succeed, right?
Okay. All right. 2 more questions for you. What do you think that the sports wagering industry in its early legal stages here is not very good at?
Pass. It's too long. It's going to take 3 hours to cover
It's
this,
its own
right?
So, give me the headline though. What would be the headline for that one? What is something that we're not good at as an industry yet?
I just don't think we're marketing it properly.
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
I just don't think we're marketing properly, but we're getting the people in for the wrong reason, and it's all about a question of numbers, right? It's so aggressive right now, specifically on the U.S. side. We're just not doing it right.
Okay, last question for you, then we'll let you go. Is what is your favorite item that you own right now that you purchased for $100 or less?
I showed you a couple of minutes ago before we went live. Should I go?
Go get it. Go get it for our viewers. It is actually, I'll describe it because most people are going to listen on the audio cast. It is a blow-up doll. No. You disgusting, dirty-minded people. It is a blow-up doll that Anthony. Go ahead. You tell it. It's your item. What is it used for? Your blow-up doll.
But it's not my favorite item. So.
Okay. All right. Anyway, people are going to want to know what it was. It was because Anthony has to wake up and his young child doesn't go to sleep without seeing him. So they put this creepy-looking blow-up doll with a wig on in the shadows. So the baby actually falls for it and falls back to sleep. They think there's someone in the room. True or not true, Anthony?
You know what? I think we broke the ice for today, and I think that there's going to be some jokes around that, but
good.
Thanks.
Hopefully at your expense. No, but for real, what is your favorite item that you own right now, technologically wise, or just something silly that's $100 or under that you use every day? Most people they don't think of it, and then you tell them, and they go out and buy the item. Tell them what it is. You're holding it up.
AirPods.
Oh, they're so good. I use them all the time. These AirPods.
It has for someone that spends almost half of his day on the phone. It has completely changed my life. Yep. No joke, right? So multitasking and everything. Let's just say that when I lose these or I can't find them, it is panic mode for me. So.
Yep. Well, hopefully we didn't make it too uncomfortable. John, do you have anything parting for Anthony before you and I get into a discussion here?
No, I know Anthony's on his way out, so I don't want to hold him up.
All right.
I know I had some business to take care of, but sorry I couldn't be here early, Ant. But we'll speak more later.
Wait till you hear back what we talked about. You're gonna love it. Coach Anthony of Sportsbet Army, thank you for coming on. I love talking to you as always, offline, on the pod. I wish people could hear some of our non-recorded conversations because I think that would even be more interesting. They would sign up by the droves if they realize how 2 strangers on Slack talk to each other. All right, brother. We'll see you real soon, and we'll talk.
Thanks for having me again. Talk to you soon.
Anytime.
See you.
All right, John, here we are again, part 2 of the podcast. It's you and I, the Batman and Robin.
So what'd you guys get into, man?
Oh my God, you're gonna have to listen back.
I will.
It's too crazy to get into, but a lot of fun things, and I think that, as you know, working with Anthony for a long time, people are gonna love him.
Ant is the best. You know what? I'll be honest with you. What I was shocked with, and I've only been now with these guys since the end of September, and I'm where I was just now is a house I've been working on. I know we've alluded to it on a couple of podcasts in the past. So I'm flipping a house down in St. Pete, and it's kind of funny and I've had all sorts of contractor issues, and now I'm bringing in some new contractors, and every contractor you speak to, they're like, yeah, I hate when that happens. It gives a bad rap to the business and whatnot. Well, the business we're in has sort of the same stigma.
Absolutely.
And so even me being in the business, maybe more so because I've been in this for so long, is I generally go into meeting other people who are supposedly really good at this with a lot of trepidation, because I've just seen so many people who are just not really trustworthy. They're not nearly as good as they say they are. And I can say this with all honesty, and I've had friends now that I've recommended sign up for the site, and I wouldn't do that if if I didn't think it was if I didn't think the information that these guys were providing were good. I mean, my friends know me, so that's fine. I don't have to sell myself. But Ryan and Anthony are phenomenal at what they do, and I'm shocked that Kevin was able to find guys as good as they are and as good people as they are as well. So yeah, I'm super excited to be with those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we were talking about mostly was the launch of Sportsbet Army, and that was our special announcement that you've heard of DFS Army. If you're listening to this podcast, they have been an industry leader producing more winners and great models and optimizers for the last 5 or 6 years. And now we're turning our attention, some of our experts, over to Sportsbet Army, and it's just going to be unbelievable. And John, if you're listening to the podcast for the first time, is one of our lead coaches over there, along with Anthony, who you just heard, and Ryan, who we'll have on tomorrow. I believe he's going to come on the podcast. And they not only just give you picks, because we're not just a pick seller. In fact, we don't sell picks. We suggest and we tell our value, but it's mostly at Sportsbet Army about how to fix leaks in your game, common mistakes, bankroll management, chasing, different stories. So that is where we had left off. John, last time I talked to you, we were talking about a little bit of Super Bowl. How did you do on your prop picks? Were you profitable?
The prop, they're so tough. They're so difficult. It was slight profit, nothing to brag too much about on the prop picks. I could give you the complaints on some, but some of them were winners that were tight. I'm trying to think back now. I know I had a couple. I'll tell you the one that I won that should have been easy and wasn't, was Garoppolo over on the attempts. I'm trying to think back on the numbers. I believe it was 28 and a half attempts I had on the over. And I don't know if you recall the end of that game, but his last 2 attempts, which should have been attempts, were really close because he was getting hit as he threw, so they were tight.
Right.
They were close to being either sacks, which of course wouldn't have been an attempt, and one was close to being a fumble. I'm like, come on, it's losing at the end of the game on first down when you need 2 more attempts, and you're like, okay, well, he's got to throw 3 more unless he throws a touchdown, and squeaking those out was a lot of fun. But
that's the sweat that you're looking for, just like the Pat Mahomes rushing yards. You heard
that was I had the under on that, so that wound up being a lucky one as well. So I can't complain about the ones that were close. I had Thompson on over 1.5, and he only had that 1 carry at the goal line, so that kind of hurt. And 4.5 yards, which he didn't even gain a yard on that play down by the goal line, so that one didn't come through. But they're tough. I mean, listen, gambling in general is tough. The props are particularly difficult. If you saw, I think what the video that I had made on that though, if you are, I believe it's up on the on our website, Sportsbet Army website. There's actually it's actually useful, and obviously some of it is focused on the Super Bowl. But for your own guidance, if you do have some, because I think most people would look at the lines, and what you do is on these props and with all lines, you look at, especially with the juice, and you're like, I would say 90% of the people just kind of come up with a number in their head like, oh, that sounds like a good line, or that doesn't. I mean, Alan, you do this recreationally, casually. When you're looking at a line, let's say you're looking at a prop and you say, well, you did it. I know the big prop you had this year was Mahomes throwing 35 touchdowns, right? So,
tell me about it.
Which looked like easy money, right?
All right.
But when you look at these things, and sometimes they're juiced. Let's say it was 35, and I don't know if that was minus 110 or not, but
it was minus 110 when I got it.
Let's say you have a prop. You have a prop that's minus 140. Now, in your mind, like, how do you figure out whether or not you should be laying that juice or not?
I mean, for me, in my mind, it's like I don't pay attention to the juice when it's. And again, this is totally the wrong way to do it.
No, but I want to hear from you, because you're going to be more like, your train of thought is going to be a lot more similar to what a lot of people listening.
Yeah, and that's what I told Anthony. It was one of the things we talked about. I said, I'm the customer. So because he was like, hey, why does anyone want to hear from me? I'm going to get back to your question. And I said, this is what Anthony said. And I said, because I'm the customer and I want to hear from you. So if I want to hear from you, everyone wants to hear. So get back to your question is, how do if the juice is under 150 on a prop that I think is a home run, I'm taking it. Now, when it's 2-1 minus 200, I'm thinking twice about it. But if there's a prop identified like Pat Mahomes over 35.5 touchdowns, there's almost nothing that can stop me from taking it that's 150 or under.
Okay. So now what I'm doing now, let's say you're not actually modeling these. Let's say you're just coming up, like you're not doing actual projections, let's say. No. So let's say but you've got a number in your head where you say, I'm going to say 38 touchdowns from, or 40 touchdowns from, whatever that number may be for you. If you look at the video that I did, you'll be able to then put a price on that. So it's a useful video for a lot of different things regarding prop, and you can use it in other things as well. It's also very similar to how I will price a baseball game or a soccer game in particular, because soccer it really works better with lower scoring or lower total. Right. So if you're dealing with like touchdown catches or number of receptions or things like that, it works a lot better. It's tough when you start getting into yardage. It doesn't work quite as well. But anyway, just a little for those of you who did not see it. It's called a Poisson. It's using a Poisson distribution. So if you're familiar with that at all,
so you know what, I'll put the link. Difficult. I'll put the link to that in the video description of this video. So if you're hearing this, you don't have to go searching for it. You can just click in there. So by the time this is posted, it'll be in there.
And can I answer one of the questions that you asked Anthony when I
swear to God, you read my mind. I was literally about to say, hey, I want to ask you a few of the questions, but which one did you want to answer?
Well, I jumped in at the tail end. I think. All right. What was it was one of the last three questions. It was something about
what does the industry not do well?
There was one right before that where you said something about.
Here you go. It was something about advice for new bettors. Was it the $100 philosophy that's changed over the last 5 years?
Philosophy that's changed. That's the one I was kind of interested in, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, please, because it's on my list to ask you as well.
So I have actually become, I'm less risk averse in the last. Right, I was ultra conservative, as conservative as a better gambler could be previously. And what the DFS has taught me is, because I'm sure many of you listening here know how difficult DFS is, and what it's taught me, not just in gambling and not just in DFS, but in life, is how not to let, when you're confident in what you're doing, not to let the failures stop you from continuing. I've probably wanted to quit DFS somewhere along the line, and let's say I've been doing it pretty hardcore for, let's say, 4 or 5 years. Every few months, you go to a point where, especially as I play a lot of GPPs, so you'll just go on losing streaks for a long period of time. And in the beginning, especially, I've wanted to quit a million times. Now,
start with this. What was your core philosophy that you did change? And I want to hear about that process, that transformation. But what was your core philosophy that you had? And then we'll get into what the change was.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to put words to it because I wasn't prepared. And I don't know if it's a philosophy, but it was just a mindset.
Yeah,
where it's a mindset of. And this we might be getting into too deep, but it's almost, I touched on it in the past. It's that rat race thing, and we all get into it, and it's go to work, earn money, spend the money, hopefully save a little something that you, hopefully there's a little something to save. Most of us never have anything to save, but it's very low risk. It's low risk.
I call it the race to nowhere.
It is, and you'll work every day to pay your bills, to pay the government, then to pay your bills, and you're doing it to survive on a daily basis. But it's, we perceive having a job as being safe. Go to school, have a job, be safe. It's a mentality and a philosophy that that's what I grew up with. I mean, that was instilled in me as a kid. Go to school, get a good job, and all that. And I'm not knocking school or getting a job. Both of those things are very important.
I am. And again, we'll get into that another time.
We can do a whole podcast on that, because on school, I've got a lot of
worst investment.
For most people, I do agree. And I would love to talk more about that kind of thing. But if you look at successful people, they take risk, and I've never taken greater risk monetarily than I started doing when I was doing the daily fantasy, even in sports betting, because the risk in sports betting, while there is risk involved, it's primarily, even if my models weren't working well, it should still be close to a coin flip. Getting off the train doesn't move that quickly in sports betting typically. And with proper money management and bankroll management, it's you're not seeing the ups and downs nearly as great as you will if you're a GPP player, or if, let's say, if you're a tournament player in poker or something like that. And you're playing. I'm talking about big, high stakes type of events. But that is, once you, and this happens with all of us, right? If you have been sterilized in your life, and you've never been allowed to skin your knee, get burned, do anything, you're in a much worse situation than the person who grew up being able to hurt themselves, break bones, do all those things. So if you don't take risk and get burned and lose in anything, this is not just sports, if you don't make mistakes, you'll never be successful. And I think I had the mindset of, I had much more of a fear, let's put it that way, of making mistakes and being wrong. And over, it's been probably a little bit more than 5 years, but over this time frame is, I have no fear of making mistakes. As a matter of fact, I welcome mistakes now. I welcome failures, because those, I know it sounds cliche, but your failures really do make you stronger. So if you learn from those things and then continue to fight through it and battle through, you're only going to be better for it. It's like, have you ever tried to lose weight and you hit that plateau? I know your wife probably understands this as far as being a nutritionist.
Yeah, she's a dietitian.
A dietitian, right? Yeah. So, you always hit that plateau, and then if you don't actually change things up and fight through that plateau, you're just going to fall back. And trust me, I know the fall back way better than I know the fighting through it. But you'll just say, well, all right, well, this is my peak. I lost 20 pounds and I'm done. But if you continue it and fight, you're not willing to accept the failure. So to me, don't accept failure. Figure out, am I the reason for the failure? Am I doing something, or can I change something? But welcome it, embrace it. And what I found is, more and more people, I think most people, it's not that they are afraid to fail. They're afraid of how failure looks out in the outside world. So they don't want to fail. Isn't it nice to, when you go to school, when you go to college, your family's all proud of you, right? Your grandmother wants to brag, oh, Johnny's in whatever college. Or I'll talk specifically about my grandmother. My grandmother just always wanted my business cards. Now, she had no idea what I did, but she wanted a ton of business cards because she could give them out to her friends and say, right. Oh, look, my grandson has business cards. It was a big deal. And I think we are mostly afraid of failing because of how it will look externally. Like I said, I'm going through this house project right now, and I want to quit and never do anything like this again. But I'm like, wait a second, I'm building this. I'm building so much knowledge on the stupid stuff I've done on this project from beginning to end, and now I'm building this wealth of knowledge to not do that again. Why would I? That's like betting. That's like betting stupidly, figuring out exactly what you did wrong, rebuilding a bankroll, and saying, I'm not going to do that again because, look, I got burned the last time. Like, no, now you know how not to get burned or how to do it better. You'll never get better at anything if you don't keep doing it. And I've learned that. I used to quit. I used to be the guy who, that's a little too dangerous. That's a little, I don't want to fail. Failure feels awful. I'm going to look like an idiot. Not anymore. As you might well know, and everybody who's listened, I am not afraid to look like an idiot anymore. So,
and no one looks like an idiot better than you, John.
and it suits me well. But but you really need to, because in all honesty, and a lot of people, we're doing things for other people. It's why we buy things. It's why we buy the things we do, and why we go into debt. It's like, who are we buying this?
Right. That's what exactly. And one of the questions that I asked Coach Anthony was, what's your favorite item that you own under $100? Not sports car or this or that. So, all right. So I want to get back to the core of the question was,
yes.
And that was a compelling story and compelling philosophy. But okay, so you were risk averse. So now is your new philosophy is strategic risk is good? Is that
yes.
how? Okay, all right. Good.
I think so, and I think you have to, if you're going to be successful or make some money in this world, build some. You have to take risk. They have to be calculated, but you also have to understand that risk. I think what we think is we're like, okay, we're looking to find things that are guaranteed, or supposedly as close to guaranteed to be successful as possible. Nothing is, right? That's why most of us don't launch businesses. I mean, how many ideas have you had for a business, but you never followed through on it?
No, because you think it's too impossible, and you're like,
I don't even. You'll always, of course, you'll always be able to come up with an excuse as to why that won't work. And then the other thing you'll do is ask other people, like, I have this idea for such and such, and you'll always find somebody who's like, well, that's kind of stupid. Like, who's going to buy that? Like, right. And then you go and look, and something like the Snuggie goes and makes like tens of millions of dollars, and you're like, well,
or my favorite, the Squatty Potty,
the Squatty Potty. Like, I could have come up with all like. And I'm sure if they went around and asked their friends and family, they're like, well, no one's going to buy that crap.
Yeah.
But they went and did it. And I guarantee most of those people who come up with these products or they come up with business ideas, they've failed. They've had a million failures in their life until one hits. So if you're not willing to take some chances, and when it comes to sports betting as well, take some, I'm not saying take unwarranted risk, but you've got to be willing to experiment, try things, and fail at it before you'll ever succeed. You're not going to just jump on and succeed. Now, again, a little self-promotion. You're dealing with some guys over at Sports Bet Army who've, we've all gone through our failures. We've all gone through our trials and tribulations. We're on the other side of that right now. So you do get the benefit of learning from us. But at the same time, it's going to speed up, hopefully, your learning process. But you're still going to need to make mistakes, and you're still going to make your mistake. And what I would stress to you is don't quit just because you run through short-term failures. Even if it's a sports betting, you have a bad week, bad month. Assess properly assess exactly why that was. Was it did you do something wrong? Did you start getting too aggressive in your bet? Whatever it may be. Be self-aware. Understand what it is. And say, okay, I trust the model, or I trust these guys. I trust what I am doing, and continue it. So once you quit, that's it. You definitely failed. So keep at whatever it is, and of course in this context we're talking about your betting.
Yeah, but people that are listening to this podcast, they tangent with us. They understand they're coming here to hear talk from passionate sports bettors, but we all share these common threads. That's what binds us as a people, that we all have these common shared experiences. So I think this conversation definitely holds value for people tuning in and staying with it. All right, couple of rapid fire questions for you, then I'll get you out of here as well. And you can answer these in lightning round fashion or whatever you want. These are some of the questions that I asked Anthony, but let's see what turns you on when you started about sports wagering, and then is that same, and it's got to be different than what is today. I know today you treat it more as a business, and it is, but what is it about sports wagering in the purest form that turns you on?
I think it's figuring something out. When I first started, it was being right. Not that I don't have that in me now, but I think most of us want to sit next to our buddies at the bar or sit in our house and have a couple of beers, watch a game, and say, see, I told you so. Not only did I tell you so, I put some money on that. I put $25 on that to show you that I told you so, because now it means something. And I'm really smart because I told you Kansas City was going to win that game. I think that's what we all, I think that was, we all started as fans. Very few people do this because they're not a fan of the sport. And it's being right, and the money is nice. Very few people are going to retire on their sports bets, right? So it's a difficult thing. It's a grind. It's not an easy living to do. Most of us are doing this casually as a hobby, really. But I think that's primarily what it is. We all want to tell our friends and family, see, I was right about that. I was right about that game. I was right about that player.
Yeah, and you hit it on the head, because when I made my Pat Mahomes over 35.5 touchdown bets last preseason, I just wanted to scream from the mountaintops. See, I was right, and I put 10 times my normal unit size on it. I just went all in. I pushed my chips, and then even when I was wrong, I was telling people I was right anyway.
Well, of course, you were right because he got hurt.
No,
So you're like, I would have won that, but he got hurt.
Well, I'll tell you why I wasn't right. And now in post sort of self-aware analysis is because that number, everything went perfect last season. Like that injury possibility is baked into that number. The regression includes circumstances going wrong.
Well, it's funny. You told me about that bet probably on the first podcast we did together, right when I first met you, and I had just recently, within a week or so, heard, or probably before the season started, heard someone on the radio who made that same bet, and I just chuckled to myself, and I'm like, everyone is jumping on that bet. It just seems, it's one of those too good to be true type of bet. And then when you brought it up, I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, oh boy, I'm like, this could potentially not be a good bet, and unfortunately, he didn't even come close. So
right. I mean, as soon as he was hurt, when it was 3-4 games, he had to do 3 touchdowns a game, and then they were going more to a running philosophy towards the end of the season. Yeah, I mean, that's for another podcast. All right, last question for you. I asked Anthony, and I really am curious about it. What is your favorite item that you own currently that you spent $100 or less on?
That's a really good question.
You could take a minute to think.
I cook a bunch, and this is going to come in right about $100. I've got one of the, I guess they call them the jewels, but the sous vide. Have you ever heard of sous vide cooking?
In the bag, in the
yes,
you boil the bag. Yep.
Well, you don't boil it, right? So the sous vide, it's like this cylindrical thing that goes into a water bath, and you put whatever in a vacuum sealed bag. Sous vide actually means, I believe, and we had Anthony here. We could have asked him, but I believe it means vacuum something or other.
People that use it swear by it.
It's my favorite.
My question for you is, I always worry about boiling plastic. Could that be good for the food?
Yeah, so these are, again, you're not boiling it. So you're only bringing things up. Like if I cook a steak, it's at 135 degrees. It's more about time and temperature.
Right.
So you have to cook it for a length of time. So, and the great thing is, like, you don't overcook your chicken, things like that. I'll cook chicken only to 145 degrees, but you cook it long enough where it kills the bacteria, keeps the chicken really moist and juicy. So anyway, I would have a hard time living without that since I bought one of those things. So
awesome. All right. Well, Sportsbet Army is launched. Go check it out. If you want to find out how to get 2 free months, you can tweet us at what's the Twitter for Sportsbet Army? It's still DFS. Just do it at DFS Army, correct?
Yes, I don't think. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
I think we get a Sportsbet Army Twitter.
Yeah,
account?
well, there's a Beat the Bookie one.
There's the Beat the Bookie one. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, I'm looking up as I talk. Great radio. If you want, though, at DFS Army. Private message us, ask us how to get 2 free months of Beat the Bookie. It's when you make a $50 deposit on one of our affiliated sports books. You can check it out for 2 months free, or if you just want to jump right in and not make the deposit on the sports books, you have your own sports book going, you can get 20% off by using code BTB, Beat the Bookie, over at Sportsbet Army. All right, check us out there. Just go take a look at the site. Take a look at the layout. It's beautiful the way it looks. For those of you watching on the feed right now, what I'm going to do is just pull up. Oops, sorry, John, I lost you there.
That's okay.
There we go. And this is what it looks like from the screen. I know most of you are listening on the audio cast, but we have our models, we have our tools, we have our Slack chat up there. John is doing PGA picks, soccer picks, obviously NCAA coming up, and Anthony is just crushing it at hockey as well. And football,
yeah, it's been unbelievable.
Yeah,
and we've got, with the tournament coming up, Ryan and I are putting a package together. I do a huge article every year where I eliminate the top contenders for the tournament based on statistics. So that's always really well received. People really enjoy that. Ryan's got some models. I also have some models that'll help you pick your brackets, and we'll also talk strategy as to the rules and the amount of people in your particular bracket and how you should be attacking it. So I would jump in here now, start building up. We've got a month to go before the tournament starts, so this is a good time to get on board.
Yeah, no, this is when I'm most engaged because, with NFL, I feel like I have, for better for worse, some edge in football, and then obviously I use you guys as my sanity check. With NCAA, I have just done poorly year after year with my sports wagering, and I'm just excited to just follow your picks along and live and die because, I mean, it looks like right now Ryan is hitting at 59%. I know you're up there as well. I just can't wait. So if you're excited about NCAA, jump in now, sportsbetarmy.com. Join us, check us out. And all right, John Alesia, next time, I don't know if you're available tomorrow, but we're going to be talking to Ryan. I'd love to have you on there.
I should be around.
All right, brother. I am at Alan Seslowski. Follow me on Twitter for at Statsational. Another fun episode of Beat the Bookie podcast, episode 11. We'll see you next time over at sportsbetarmy.com. Bye-bye.